Now, I know that you are thinking, what the heck is she doing moving around from room to room in her house? It's just to give you a respite from looking at the same view behind me all of the time. Now, on to the module and Pygmalion, which I want to discuss in this video. Now, Pygmalion is in this module, which is about class and society, and we have different classes portrayed within the play. But I want to center in on something beyond just middle class, high class, middle class, and lower class, but other aspects of class and culture. Pygmalion, and I think I mentioned this in the weekly announcement, is based on a Greek myth. And in the Greek myth, Pygmalion is a sculptor, and he really doesn't like women. He thinks that women are quarrelsome, angry, gossips. Everything that is negative about humans is embodied in women. And he makes a statue, Galatea. He names her Galatea. And she is so beautiful, he falls in love with her. And he petitions the goddess of love, Aphrodite, to make Galatea into a real woman. And because he goes through the proper channels, Aphrodite grants his wish and brings Galatea to life. Now, Galatea is different from other women, and she is the offspring of a male mother in that she has no mother. Pygmalion creates her, Aphrodite brings her to life, and therefore she is not stigmatized by the negative attributes of women who are born in the natural way from women. And so the name Pygmalion has become closely associated with a male who makes over a female. And in the play Pygmalion, we have this example. The myth, and by default, the characterization and portrayal of Henry Higgins and Eliza in the novel are the results of a patriarchal society and the status of men and women. While women fit into the upper class, the middle class, and the lower class, women are still classed different than men are and stereotyped into not only having those negative attributes, but also as being less intelligent. Women were not educated, and so we're considered quite different from men in patriarchal societies, and we still have an echo of this today. So we don't see a well-educated woman trying to refine a lower class man and make him into a gentleman. I'm trying to think of anything that I have ever read that attempts this, and I'm drawing a blank. I can't think of anything. Perhaps you can think of something, and by all means mention it in the discussion board if you like. But Henry Higgins does not create Eliza from a block of stone, but he still creates her and molds her into a new person, a new persona, and is her, I don't want to say educator, is her mentor to refine her. And this is the patriarchy manifesting itself. He is the father figure, and who better to create a new woman, so to say. Now, we see this repeated in other works, and we see this repeated in modern times. Now, Henry Higgins is not a Svengali. He does not have nefarious ideas in his head when he sets out to make Eliza, to polish her. She could be a diamond in the rough. We hear that, and a diamond in the rough can refer to lots of different people in different circumstances. But he doesn't do that with the goal of seducing her or taking advantage of her. In fact, he wants to benefit her. We also see this in modern times in the movie Pretty Woman with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. Couldn't think of his name there for a moment. Now, the circumstances are different because the character played by Julia Roberts is a prostitute. And Richard Gere falls in love with her, and he wants to, for lack of a better phrase, make her acceptable in polite society. Even though the circumstances are a bit different, the goal is still the same. A man who attempts to mold a woman into a specific idealization of womanhood within a certain class. So we see this progression from the myth, where the original Pygmalion is just disgusted with women overall, but he does find a woman whom he can love, but she's not a traditional woman by any stretch of the imagination, into the play Pygmalion, where an upper class, well-to-do man conducts an experiment, for lack of a better word, and molds her into a woman who fits within a certain class status. Now, within that class, she's still female, and she is still limited by the things that she is allowed to do, but nevertheless, she goes through, skips the middle class and goes up to the upper class. She will gain, though, her real status in that society through Henry Higgins, because that is how women gain their status throughout in society for thousands of years. First is through their father, and then it is through their husbands. And then we fast forward into even more modern times, and we have this concept as exemplified in the movie Pretty Women, and a Pretty Woman, not Pretty Women, Pretty Woman. And of course, there is the play, the musical, movie My Fair Lady, in which Henry Higgins is doing the same thing with Eliza. It's just that they're singing while they are doing it. So next week we are going to be looking at gender issues, and I want everybody to keep in mind that these modules are not isolated. Last week we talked about the warrior, and this week we looked at the knight in the Canterbury Tales and his high status. But the knight did not always mean what we perceive it to be. It was, in Anglo-Saxon, it was just a youth. It had different meanings. And then it came to mean the warrior. And now today, anybody can be knighted. And I noted this in the discussion. And it changed meaning again, which goes back to that idea of the athlete as warrior. So those two modules are connected by that, and this module is connected to the next module in the status of women in gender issues, and that it is an older man working with a younger woman, and that not only reflects the class of those two individuals, but it also reflects gender issues as well. I'm going to stop there, and if I think of something more to say, I will just add it in writing later.